Racism. Let's talk about racism because it's always on the news, whether on social media, on television, internet, sports, entertainment, politics. It's everywhere all the time. But first, let me tell you something about racism and discrimination, which no one talks about. Racism and discrimination exist in every race and in every part of the world. No matter what your race, your color, your origin, your religion, your politics, or even your economic status. Racism and discrimination exist everywhere and it affects everyone. Name me one race which is not racist. I can tell you, there aren't any. And anyone who tells you otherwise are either a buffoon or a scam artist. So let's look into some of racism in different ways. First, let's look into blacks. In Uganda, during Idi Amin rule, Southeast Asians were targeted, discriminated, and terrorized. Particularly, the ethnic cleansing of Indians. In South Africa, white minorities and other ethnic minorities were targeted, they were terrorized and discriminated. In America, during the 90s LA riot, South Koreans were discriminated by the black community. Now, during this COVID pandemic, I've seen lots of blacks targeting Asians, especially Asian elders, Asian seniors. They are beating up, they are targeted, they are terrorized. So racism and discrimination exist in black community, in black race. Next, let's look into whites. Colonialism, slavery system, apartheid system all across the globe, whether in Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, or in North America. Almost every race on the planet, in one form or another, they face racial discrimination or they live under apartheid system. Hitler was on top of that, the worst of the worst. Next, let's look into Asians. During the Japanese Empire, the Japanese enslaved and discriminated Chinese, Koreans, and others. Now, if you are people from Africa, India, or other poor Southeast Asian countries coming into South Korea, Japan, or China, you'll be discriminated in all sorts of forms. I've seen lots of African footballers, soccer players from Africa in Chinese soccer league racially targeted and discriminated. You won't hear much about it because social media, internet, media in general are controlled and run by the Chinese Communist Party. Also the ethnic cleansing of Uyghur Muslims in China. So racial discrimination and racial intolerance in Asian community is prevalent and it exists. Next, let's look into Arabs. Black slavery system, black slave trade, and discriminations in the Arab world is as old as any of our human history. And it still exists today. If you look into Libya, Egypt, and other Arab countries, there are still slave trade going on. If you are migrant workers, laborers from poor Southeast Asian countries like India, Philippines, Nepal, Bangladesh, etc., you are treated like a slave. You are treated worse than a second-class citizen. We all know the racial hatred and animosity against and towards Jews in the Arab world. So racism and discrimination exists in Arab countries, in the Arab world, in the Arab race. Last and finally, let's look into Jews. Like the Arabs, the Jews' racial hatred and racial animosity against Arabs is very prevalent, is very common, and is very widespread, especially due to Israel-Palestine conflicts, Even among Jews, there are non-white Jews who are discriminated and treated like a second-class citizens. The best example is Ethiopian black Jews. As we all know, even within Jew community, there are different race, multiple race, and multiple backgrounds. So, racism and discrimination comes in many different forms, whether it's based on your race, your origin, your color, your religion, your politics, and your economical background. I hate racism and discrimination. I don't like it at all. I face racism and discrimination myself, so I understand racism and discrimination. Let's not be judgmental or discriminatory towards any race, because we all have races within our own race, whether we like it or not. All races have flaws, dark history, terrible past, horrendous customs and traditions. We can dig up dark secrets, the ugly truth of every race, especially in this age of internet. You can Google up. I don't want to be discriminated, judged or prejudiced based on my race. I'm an individual and I want to be treated as one, not based on my race, my origin, my color, or whatever. So let's look into a mirror, our family, our friends, our community, and our race before we start pushing the world or others. Don't never ever listen to professional activists, social justice warriors, selfish, delusional, and virtue signaling hypocrites like celebrities and politicians. You and me are the experts because we live next to each other. We interact with one another. We have conflicts. We have fun. We deal with each other all the time. Whereas professional activists and social justice warriors, they live in the wealthiest, safest neighborhood, living hundreds or thousands of meters apart. They don't have to interact with one another. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to deal with one another. The only time they deal with people from different backgrounds or different race is in front of camera. My race have racists, your race have racists, we all have racists within our own race. Censoring and silencing our dark secrets or ugly truth will never help solve racial issues. We have to open up. We have to shine a light on it. Beware of grifters, scammers, con artists, and race hustlers like professional activists and social justice warriors. Because these people, they do it for fame, wealth, and recognition. They are selfish and they are egomaniac. I never trust them because I never believe them. Racism and discrimination issues are like a sport for them. This is where they make money, name, and recognition. They are like parasites. They don't help the host, which is the problem of racism and discrimination. Let's first condemn our own race before we start condemning others. Start with your own kind, start with your own race before we can start condemning others or preaching others. It's never going to work telling other race not to be racist when your own kind, your own race are abusing, are discriminating, are terrorizing by using all the racist slurs in the books. So, let's look into a mirror before we start preaching to the world. That's it. If you can, please subscribe, like, share, and comments below. Thank you.